Have you ever loved someone so deeply that it started to destroy you? Have you ever given everything you had to a person only to feel more alone in their presence than ever before? If you answered yes to either of those questions, I need you to hear this right now. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not the problem. But I also need you to know something else. Something that might sting a little, but something you desperately need to hear. The reason you feel so exhausted, so confused, so emotionally drained right now, it might not be because you don't love them enough. It might be because you've been loving them in a way that was never going to work. And that realization, that's going to change everything for you. See, there's a specific kind of pain that comes from loving someone who pulls away every time you get close. It's not the kind of pain that makes headlines. It's quiet. It's invisible. Other people don't see it. They can't. From the outside, everything looks fine. But on the inside, you are slowly disappearing. You keep showing up. You keep giving. You keep trying to bridge a gap that never seems to close no matter how hard you reach. And the worst part, they don't even seem to notice. Or maybe they do notice. Maybe they pull you close for just a moment, and your heart floods with hope. You think, this is it. This is the breakthrough. But then just as quickly as they came, they retreat. They vanish emotionally. They go silent. And you're left standing there, holding nothing but the echo of something that felt real for a second. Sound familiar? If it does, I want you to pay very close attention to everything I'm about to share with you. Because what I'm about to tell you could be the difference between staying stuck in this painful cycle for another year or finally breaking free and reclaiming your peace. Here's the truth nobody talks about. There are specific things you keep giving to an avoidant person. Things they might even ask for directly. But every single time you hand these things over, you're actually making the problem worse. Not just for them, for yourself. You're feeding a cycle that keeps you trapped. You're abandoning yourself in the name of love. And the cruelest irony, you do it because you care, because you love hard, because you believe that if you just love them the right way, if you just give them enough space, if you just prove yourself enough, things will finally change. But they won't. Not this way. And I know how hard that is to hear, because I know you. I know the part of you that wants to be the exception. The part of you that thinks, maybe I'm different. Maybe if I just stay a little longer, try a little harder, love a little deeper, I'll be the one who finally reaches them. But that part of you is lying to you, not out of malice, out of hope. And hope is beautiful, but hope without truth is dangerous. So today, I'm going to show you 5 specific things you should never give to an avoidant person, even when they ask for them. Not because I want you to give up on love, but because I want you to stop abandoning yourself in the name of it. I'm going to break down exactly why these things push them further away, why they push you further away from yourself, and I'm going to show you what to give instead. Love that is healthy. Love that is reciprocal. Love that doesn't require you to shrink. And here's the promise I'm making you right now. If you stay with me until the very end of this video, you will leave with something priceless. You will leave with clarity, you will leave with strength, and you will finally have a blueprint for how to protect your heart while still being the kind of person capable of deep, beautiful love. So watch every single second, because what I'm about to share could be the turning point you've been waiting for. Let's begin. You already know the weight of it. That heaviness that settles in your chest before you even open your eyes each morning. You wake up and for just a fraction of a second, you forget. And then it hits you, the relationship, the silence, the distance. It's all still there. Nothing has changed, and that realization lands like a stone in your stomach. This is the reality of loving an avoidant person. This is the truth that nobody wants to talk about at dinner parties or in happy hour conversations with friends. Nobody posts about this on social media. Nobody turns this into a beautiful love story because it doesn't feel beautiful. Not most of the time. Not when you're in the middle of it, drowning in silence while the rest of the world seems to move on just fine. But I want you to understand something. What you're experiencing right now is not normal. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean it in the most urgent way possible. What you're experiencing is the slow erosion of your emotional well-being. And it has been happening so gradually that you barely even noticed. You've normalized it. You've made excuses for it. You've told yourself that this is just how love works sometimes, that all relationships have difficult seasons, that if you just hold on a little longer, things will shift. But let's get brutally honest for a second. When was the last time you felt truly seen by this person? Not just tolerated, not just accepted, actually seen the way you see them, the way you hold their pain like it's your own, the way you show up even when you're exhausted, the way you choose them over your own comfort every single time they need you. Go ahead. Think about it. Now ask yourself, when was the last time they showed up for you with that same energy, that same urgency, that same willingness to put themselves in your shoes and feel what you feel? I'm willing to bet there's a long silence in your mind right now. And that silence is louder than any words could ever be. Here's what you need to accept right now, and I need you to really sit with this. Loving an avoidant person is one of the loneliest experiences a human being can go through. Not because they don't love you back, but because the love they give never reaches you in the way you need it to. It's like reaching for water and grasping at air. You know something is there, you can almost touch it, but every time you reach, it slips further away. And the most painful part, you start to question yourself. You start to wonder if you're the problem, if you're too sensitive, if you're asking for too much, if your needs are unreasonable. You start dimming yourself down to make them more comfortable. You start apologizing for having feelings. You start shrinking to fit into the tiny space they're willing to give you. But here's what nobody has been honest enough to tell you until now. You are not asking for too much. Your needs are not unreasonable. Your desire to feel connected, to feel valued, to feel like you matter to the person who claims to love you, that is not weakness. That is not neediness. That is being human. And anyone who makes you feel like your humanity is a burden has already failed you in the most fundamental way. The truth is, your efforts have always been more than enough. The problem isn't that you haven't tried hard enough. The problem is that you've been trying to build a bridge to someone who refuses to cross it. And no amount of love on your side can compensate for the absence of effort on theirs. This is hard to accept. I know it is. Because accepting it means accepting that the person you've given so much of yourself to might never be able to meet you where you need them to. And that realization feels like grief. It feels like loss. It feels like watching something beautiful slip through your fingers. But here's what I'm going to tell you, and I need you to hear this with every ounce of your being. Grief is not the end. Loss is not the end. And the moment you stop blaming yourself for what couldn't be fixed, you will finally be free to find what was always meant for you. So stay with me, because what I'm about to share next will change how you see this entire situation, and it will give you the strength you've been searching for. So, let's get crystal clear about something. I've spent the last few minutes describing the pain you're feeling, the confusion, the loneliness, the exhaustion of loving someone who never seems to meet you halfway. And if you've been living inside those words, you're probably feeling a mix of emotions right now. Relief that someone finally gets it, sadness that it resonates so deeply, and maybe even a flicker of hope that we're heading somewhere good. But before we go any further, I need to make sure you understand exactly who we're talking about here. Because clarity is power, and once you truly understand what an avoidant person is, you will stop doing something that's been destroying you for months or even years. You're going to stop blaming yourself. Let's break this down in the simplest possible terms. An avoidant person is someone whose attachment system is wired differently than most. Early in their life, something happened. It could have been emotional neglect. It could have been inconsistency from the people who were supposed to love them. It could have been trauma, loss, or a steady diet of emotional unavailability. Somewhere along the way, they learned a devastating lesson. A lesson that says closeness is dangerous, vulnerability is risky, and depending on another person is the fastest way to get hurt. So their brain did something brilliant in response. It built walls, deep, high walls designed to keep anyone from getting too close. And those walls, they look like independence. They look like self-sufficiency. They look like strength. From the outside, an avoidant person can seem like they have it all together. They don't seem to need anyone. They handle things alone. They carry their own weight. But here's what those walls really are. They're armor. They're protection. And underneath all that strength and distance lies a terrified human being who learned a long time ago that love is not safe. Now here's where it gets complicated for you. When an avoidant person meets someone warm, someone giving, someone who loves deeply and openly like you, something interesting happens. For a little while, they let their guard down. They feel attracted to your light. They enjoy the connection. For a brief moment, they allow themselves to believe that maybe, just maybe, this time will be different. But the moment things start to get real, the moment the relationship asks for depth, the moment you need emotional intimacy, consistency, real commitment, their alarm system goes off. Every nerve ending in their body screams, danger! Pull back. Protect yourself. And they do exactly that. They retreat. They withdraw. They create distance. Not because they don't care about you, but because they care so much that it terrifies them. And this is where you keep making the same mistake. You see their withdrawal and you chase them. You see their distance and you get closer. You see them pulling away and you work even harder to bridge the gap. You reason, if I just love them better, if I just understand them more, if I just give them enough space, they will come back and everything will be fine. But here's the truth that breaks my heart every time I share it with someone who's living this. You cannot love someone out of a survival mechanism. You cannot reason with a nervous system that has been programmed since childhood to view closeness as a threat. Your love is not strong enough to override years of protective conditioning. And that's not a failure on your part. That's just science. The avoidant person you're dealing with is not broken. They're wounded. There's a difference. Broken implies they can't be fixed. Wounded means they carry pain they haven't healed from. And here's the thing about wounds. They don't heal when someone else pours love into them. They heal when the person carrying that wound decides to do their own inner work. Only then. Not before. Not because you stayed long enough. Not because you loved hard enough. So now you understand what an avoidant is. Not a monster, not someone who doesn't care, not someone who can't love, but someone who carries deep fear of closeness and who will keep running from that fear no matter how beautiful your love is. And this understanding, this is your first step toward freedom because now you know it was never about you. Your value, your worth, your ability to love, none of that was ever the variable. The variable was always them and the distance they keep to protect themselves. Now that you know who they are, let's talk about why they do what they do. Because understanding the why is going to change everything for you. So now you see them clearly, not as the cold, distant person who makes you feel invisible, but as someone carrying wounds they don't know how to heal. Someone who learned very early that love comes with a price tag, and that price is your sense of self. Someone who built those walls not to hurt you, but to survive. That matters. Understanding this matters because it shifts something inside you. It softens the anger. It quiets the resentment. It makes space for compassion instead of pain. But understanding alone isn't enough. You need to go deeper. You need to understand the why behind their actions. The exact mechanism that drives them to pull away exactly when you need them most. Because once you see it clearly, you will stop taking their behavior personally. And that, my friend, is going to save your sanity. Let's talk about fear. Not the kind of fear that makes headlines, not the fear of danger or threats or real harm. We're talking about something much quieter. Something much more devastating, the fear of losing yourself. Every avoidant person walking this earth is running from the same ghost. They are terrified, and I mean deeply, fundamentally terrified of being consumed by another person, of merging so completely with someone else that they no longer know where they end and the other person begins. They've seen what that kind of merging does in their childhood homes. They've watched someone disappear into another person's needs, wants, and emotions. And something in them screamed, "Never me. Never that. I will not let that happen to me." So they made a decision, a subconscious decision that has shaped their entire adult life. They decided to never let anyone get close enough to threaten their sense of self. They decided that independence is safety, that needing someone is weakness, that love without boundaries is a trap waiting to spring. And here's the part that will break your heart and set you free at the same time. Every time you reach for them, every time you express a need, every time you ask for emotional connection, their nervous system reads it as a threat. Not because they don't love you, but because your need feels like a demand. Your vulnerability feels like a weapon. Your desire for closeness feels like a request for them to sacrifice their identity. Their inner child is screaming, "If I give this to you, I will disappear. I will lose myself. I will become nothing." So they do what they've always done. They retreat. They create space. They pull back emotionally, not to hurt you, but to protect themselves. And the cruelest irony is that the very act meant to protect them ends up destroying the connection they desperately want, but don't know how to hold. Now here's what you need to understand about this pattern. It is deeply, deeply ingrained. It was programmed into them during the most formative years of their development. By the time they became adults, this pattern was not a choice anymore. It was their default setting, their automatic response. The only way they know how to survive intimacy. Think about it this way. Imagine someone who learned to swim by almost drowning. Every time they enter the water, their body tenses. Their muscles lock. They fight the water instead of moving with it. They are not bad swimmers. They are traumatized swimmers. And no amount of someone else swimming beautifully beside them is going to change how their body responds to being in the water. That's what an avoidant person is, a relationship traumatized person. And every time intimacy deepens, their entire system goes into panic mode. This is also why they can seem so perfectly fine without you, why they can walk away without looking back, why they don't seem to miss you the way you miss them. It's not because they feel nothing, it's because their defense system is working overtime to convince them they don't need you. The walls they built to survive are also designed to make them believe they are better off alone. And this is where you have been getting hurt over and over again. You've been interpreting their distance as evidence of your inadequacy. You've been assuming that if you just tried harder, they would finally let you in. You've been treating their protective withdrawal as something that needs to be chased and fixed and overcome, but it doesn't need to be chased. It needs to be understood. The moment you truly understand that their withdrawal has nothing to do with your worth, your beauty, or your ability to love, you will feel something extraordinary happen inside you. You will feel the weight of blame you've been carrying for so long finally lift from your shoulders. You will be able to see them clearly, not as the person who abandoned you, but as someone trapped inside a fear they didn't choose. And that understanding will give you something powerful. It will give you the ability to make a choice, not the same choice you've been making all along, but a new choice, a wise choice, a choice that protects your heart while honoring the compassion you feel for their pain. Because here's the truth that will carry you through everything we're about to discuss. You cannot fix them. You cannot love them into wholeness. You cannot be patient enough, understanding enough, or giving enough to rewrite the programming of their nervous system. Only they can do that, and only when they decide it's time. Now, with that understanding locked firmly in your mind, let's get into the 5 things you should never give an avoidant person, because now you know why they act the way they do, and that knowledge is your shield. Let's move forward.